So I would like to start with identity. So whether it's an individual or whether it's a company, brand identity, individual identity, that is something that defines us before anything else that we put out there, right? So what is it about an individual's identity when it comes to the perspective of branding or the idea of a corporate identity, a brand identity? How would you define a brand identity, and what do you think are the components that make for a strong brand identity regardless of the industry in which they're a part of?
Okay, so Ansh, thank you. And let me thank Indore Literature Festival, Praveen, for inviting me. And thank you for rearranging the session so that I can catch my flight back to Mumbai. So happy to be here. This is the first time I'm coming to the Indore Literature Festival. So congratulations on the 11th edition, which I think a round of applause for the organizers, please. It's not easy to pull these things off. You need sponsors, you need authors who are willing to take time and come and speak, and of course, you need to get the audience. So I think they've done a great job, so happy to be here. So I think the question Ansh was asking is about identity. I think we call it identity or we can call it branding. So branding is something which is today apps you are in, whether you are in you're a jewelry brand like you are, or an author brand like I am, or IPL. Identity is equal to branding, and that is extremely important, right? So the earlier you recognize that, the better it is for you. How do you go about building a brand? I mean, just to plug my book, my latest book, Marketing Mixology, one chapter here is about brand building. So how do you go about building a brand? Where do you start? What are the 5 steps you take to build a strong brand? And that's one of the chapters in this book. So identity is important, and I see identity as branding. These are replaceable. Yeah. You have next question, or can I continue giving some story about my book? Okay. So let me tell some, in the previous sessions I was hearing a lot of authors talking about ChatGPT, how do they use ChatGPT, etc., right? So let me tell an interesting story around my book. This book was born very differently. I wrote for Amazon, I wrote a piece. They were doing a special event for Amazon Prime Day, and they wanted to create an exclusive piece to be given to all the Amazon Prime subscribers on Kindle. So they wanted me to write something, and I wrote something on negotiation. And that did very well. That topped the Amazon Prime charts. The next year they came back and they said, write something. I wrote something on branding. That also did very well. And after a year, the deal was the rights for the 2 chapters came back to me. So it came back to me. So I had the 2 chapters, and my agent and my publisher said, why don't you write 2 more and we'll put it together as a book. So I wrote one on communication and one on negotiation. So we had 4 chapters: negotiation, communication, branding, and consumer behavior. So we had 4 chapters. And it was put together differently, and then I had to get the whole thing rewritten because a new editor came and said, this is looking too different and you need to rewrite it. So I wrote all the 4. So I had 4 chapters, and I wanted a slightly quirky title. So the idea I had was, why don't I use, call it the marketing masala mix, and use the masala box, like Badshah masala box, as the cover. My publisher was not very happy with the idea. She felt it was too frivolous for a book on marketing with my kind of stature and all that. So she said, no, let's look at a very neutral title, get to market, go to market, something like that. I said, no, I don't like it. And this is about a year and a half ago, and I started, fooling around with ChatGPT, and I started prompting ChatGPT, and I started asking ChatGPT for name ideas. What name should the book have? These are the 4 chapters. I want something like mixture, masala mixture, and then I got the title, Marketing Mixology. This came from, after many attempts, almost 100 names, and then one of them, the mixology word was, I pulled it out, and that became, then I said, look, give me a design of a cover with 4 bottles, each bottle given a name, branding, communication, negotiation, and consumer behavior. And the 4-bottle design came, which wasn't great. That was given as a brief to my designer, Saurabh Garge, who did the design. And he's done a great job with the design. So that's how this book is born, which is 4 chapters. But the title for the book, the idea of the title for the book actually came from ChatGPT. Now, did I use ChatGPT for a lot of my research for the book? No, not at all. Every single line in this book is written by me. I've not even used ChatGPT for editing the book. But the title, the idea really came from ChatGPT. This goes on to say, look, where is Gen AI, going to take us? I don't think it's going to replace writing. If you want to write something generic, ChatGPT can probably do a better job. But if you want to write something from your life, then ChatGPT doesn't know your life. So you'll have to write it yourself. And therefore, when I write, whether I write columns for Economic Times, or Hindustan Times, or Business Standard, or I write book reviews for Business Line, they all have something which only I know. And that ChatGPT doesn't know. At least till I've written. Now that I've written, ChatGPT knows that. Recently I wrote an article for Business Standard about diagnostic test, where I wrote how, any of you have heard of something called the Benedict solution? Yeah, what is it? What is Benedict solution? Any doctors here? What is Benedict solution is for testing urine, right? So I used to use Benedict solution to test my grandfather's urine every week. So I wrote about that in an article. Now only I know that I did that, right? ChatGPT doesn't know that. But now if you ask ChatGPT about how does Ambi Parameswaran know Benedict solution, it will tell you that he tested his grandfather's urine using Benedict solution. I'm not joking. This book, a lot of this stuff from this book is there in ChatGPT. I don't know how. So it's all there, but it's not assembled, it's not put together the way we should. And that's the thing. So ChatGPT can replace, there was an interesting discussion we had. I don't know how many of you heard of this author called Vikas Swarup. उनको इधर बुलाया आपने नहीं? वो बुलाना चाहिए. So Vikas Swarup is the author, retired IAS officer who wrote the book Q&A. Why is Q&A famous? Why is the book Q&A famous? Any idea? All of you heard of Slumdog Millionaire? Right? The book is based on Slumdog. The Slumdog Millionaire was based on the book Q&A. Vikas Swarup wrote that book. So we were discussing, is ChatGPT going to replace fiction writers? So he said, look, till date, ChatGPT is not imaginative enough. So if you go and ask ChatGPT to tell you, give me a good scenario for a murder scene, right? The typical murder scene scenario ChatGPT gives is dead body with a little bit of, pool of water nearby. Now, this pool of water nearby is the most clichétic, right? It's making a knife with ice and then stabbing someone, and then the ice melts. And that's an age old. That's like dead body hanging from the fan with a pool of water below, right? It's obvious the fellow was standing on a block of ice, right? So ChatGPT still does pretty obvious stuff. But I think what he said was it's getting better. It's getting better every day. And therefore, one day it will be able to replace a lot of what we are writing, right? But till now, I think if we bring ourselves into the book, I think we are safe.